Welcome back to Blue Rush on New York Giants podcast from the New York Post. I'm Jake Brown alongside, of course, Brandon London coming from the SNY New York Post studios. We got Lawrence Tynes, two-time Giants Super Bowl champ and Giants beat writer for the Post, Paul Schwartz in the building. The regular season is over, guys, and it closed out with nothing other than Kenny Golladay's first touchdown as a New York Giant. Give him a round of applause. And it was one of the catch of the year, too, in the corner of the end zone. Yeah. He still, fell 74 catches short of a $750,000 bonus, but we give him congratulations for a hell of a touchdown catch. And listen, the Giants backups and third stringers and Davis Webb played their hearts out in a tight game against Eagles starters in a 22-16 loss. They finished the season 9-7-1. The playoffs are set. And this episode of Blue Rush is presented by Tri-State Cadillac Dealers. Visit your Cadillac showroom today. Lawrence, I'll throw it off to you first. Giants get the matchup they want. They'll get the rematch in Minnesota against the Vikings, a team that scuffled a little bit down the stretch, and they win their season finale. But Giants-Vikings set, wild card is set. But I guess we could start with the final game in Philly. Giants played pretty well considering they didn't really play anybody.
I thought they were great. I actually enjoyed watching that game last night. I got to see a lot of young guys play, a lot of guys get a lot of reps. Landon Collins obviously got some extended time, but offensively, defensively, a lot of young kids. It just goes to show you how well coached the Giants football team is. They obviously were overmatched in some regards in a game that the Eagles had to have, but you have to applaud the effort. I mean, the defensive effort, offensively, Davis Webb, first start of his career, they were able to generate some points and move the football a little bit against a really, really good team. So that was fun for me. I really enjoyed, watching these young guys play for the Giants.
Yeah. There is look, I don't think anyone's going to argue that Brian Daboll, what he did, right? I mean, throughout the league, you see this all the time. You don't half-ass it. Okay, you'll play a half, you'll play a quarter. You're resting. You guys are all resting. But when you do that against a motivated opponent who just beat you by 20-something points not long ago, you do risk opening the door for a big-time lopsided regular season ending loss, right? You just do. That's what people expected. The point spread, I think, was up to 15, and that is not a great way to go into the playoffs, even though everyone just then turned the page. So I think the Giants got virtually everything they wanted out of this game. Look, maybe they get the onside kick and Davis Webb leads them to victory, but okay, that didn't happen. But I agree with you, Lawrence. First of all, it shows that Wink Martindale's defense, I mean, you can't just put anybody out there. I get that, but these were all backups, and the Eagles were trying. The Eagles wanted to bench their guys, and they couldn't do it because they didn't have complete control of the game. So that's number one. And that Brian Daboll did things. He didn't just say, all right, well, he tries for an onside kick, right? They call a fake punt. We'll talk about that, Lawrence, because I think you're
fake field goal.
Oh, I'm sorry, fake field goal. Yes, fake field goal. But so he's trying to generate things for Davis Webb. Davis Webb was a feel-good story last night. We'll get into that. So I think they succeeded in everything. Their guys stayed healthy. Their guys rested. And people like you, Lawrence, and I'm sure Brandon, it's like, man, the Giants backups played well. And this was Dexter Lawrence told me that watching those guys go out there who grinded all season and never get to play like that makes me want to play harder for them. That's pretty good.
It's a culture game. That was a culture game. And even before the game, because me and Jake were at a break bar in Queens, and I was emceeing and then, hyping it up. And I told everybody, watch this. You have to watch these games with some sort of lens on. You can't watch it as a win-loss. It doesn't matter if we win or we lose. We're already locked into the playoffs. But when you're watching this game and you're seeing guys like Timon Fox, you're seeing Micah McFadden, you're seeing these guys, Nick McLeod, playing lights out, flying to the football. That just goes to show there's no, like Jahad Ward said a couple weeks ago, there's no rookies no more. Everyone in that locker room knows their job. Everyone in that locker room. And I think these guys, when Brian Daboll came to them and was like, hey, we're going to sit some guys, some of you younger guys are going to get some extended time. I really think that those younger guys, the Gerard Davises, the Dane Beltons, the Cordell Flotts, I really think in their head, they're like, we're going to beat these guys. We can go out there and beat these guys. We may be overmatched, but we're at least going to give them a run for their money. And you saw that by the way they were playing. Sacks, you're seeing pass breakups, you're seeing guys make plays. Luke Cager, 8 catches. I mean, Lawrence Cager, 8 catches, 69 yards. Brightwell, 11 rushes, 60 yards, a 25-yard run. Like, come on, like these guys are actually out there playing for something. And then and to remove the team aspect from it, I know you're playing for a team, but then remember, these are guys that want to get paid in the offseason as well, want to stick around and be part of this and be part of this organization as well. So you're not just going to go out there and be like, all right, we're going to let the Eagles hang 50 on us, 60 on us. You're being evaluated. Everything you do when you step on a field or whether you work out, whatever it is, you're constantly being evaluated. And they got some guys, some good evaluation. They got some good eval moments during a game like that, against an opponent like that. And now, it's just now after that game, I'm just thinking like Brian Dable was just like, all right, this is where the money's like this is where it all starts now. And you got to be feeling good with your young talent and the guys that you've had to develop throughout the course of the year and play. You have to feel good knowing that they're ready and they're ready to exceed expectations going into the first round of the playoffs.
And Lawrence, you were on the team start everyone. Are you happy with what the approach here? And didn't even start Tyrod Taylor as Davis Webb.
Listen, Dable had my back. He said there is no wrong answer. So I am very happy.
I love it.
I am very happy that everyone is healthy. But if I had to do it over again, I would say do exactly what they did yesterday. Because I think we talk about galvanizing and things like that, but I just think camaraderie of that football team is pretty good, guys. I think you saw the reaction to Kenny Galladay's touchdown, the way the guys were reacting and helping on the sidelines. That is so good for you because this is your team. And as you go into the tournament like they're about to this weekend in tough environment in Minneapolis, you need that camaraderie. And I'm really excited about what the Giants have going on chemistry-wise. We'll figure out the X's and O's, but chemistry-wise, it's a pretty close-knit football team, and that's exciting to see.
And one thing we haven't seen from this team all year, Lawrence, is a bunch of this. You've never seen a bunch of finger pointing on the field. You've never seen guys like really up in each other's faces or blow ups on the sideline. No Microsoft surfaces have been broken or anything by any of the quarterbacks or coordinators. So you're really seeing a team that's like constantly gelling together. And for Dexter Lawrence to say that again, that quote makes me want to play harder because he got a chance to see the younger guys go out there and play lights out. There's the culture of that team. And like you said, they're dangerous now, man. That chemistry is dangerous.
Yeah, Brian Dable, I think this elevates him because, it was interesting. Look, we all thought Daniel's not going to play. Tyrod Taylor will play, right? Like you said, Brandon, he's going to make his 54th career start. He's a good player. He'll manage the game. And then we hear that Davis Webb is going to start. And I think Brian Dable, I don't know how Tyrod Taylor thought about it. I really don't. But having Davis Webb start, I think elevates Brian Dable because Davis Webb is a guy that, the Giants signed him. Davis Webb played well enough in the summer to make the team. They're only going to go with 2 quarterbacks. He's on the practice squad. He made very little money this year. And look, very little money in quotes, but in that room, they could not elevate him because of some, as far as he couldn't get the top practice squad salary. He could not get that because of some rules. So he was down there. A couple of games, they activated him, right? That's a way to give him some money for the week to get a game check. And in this game, Davis Webb, when he was drafted by the Giants, he was a bright guy. They thought he had a future. He does have a big future. He's going to be a big-time coach. His father was a coach. He is a coach. I'm telling you, this guy is the next big quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, and then we'll see how far it goes. And so for them Brian Dable to say, who was with him in Buffalo for 3 years, and he said he deserves to play in a game and start a game. There were people in that press box that have to have been rooting for him to throw a touchdown pass, right? And then he trucks the safety to go into the end zone on a run, and everyone's like, man, we feel good for Davis Webb. He got a touchdown. And then he throws a touchdown pass. Davis Webb said, I'll never forget that. He said after the game, the second half, I'll never forget that. And I think he'll probably go off into retirement and start his coaching career. You guys know, right? If you're in a major leagues, getting an at bat and hitting a home run, only one versus never doing that is probably a big deal. And so that was a big deal for Davis Webb. And I think the players look at Brian Dable and said he understands that this is a big deal for him. He gets credit for that.
And Davis Webb has gave us some moments as well, like some really cool moments. Remember the whole there's that little GIF where he in the preseason where he's like the touchdown, like that's like little moments like that. But then for you to say that, Paul, that I'm thinking like for him, after this season, I'd retire. You're a Giant. You're a Giant. I think they would bring him in on that coaching staff the next year, rather quality control. Also, a guy like Sterling Shepard as well. You're a Giant. You be like a receivers coach or something like that as well. But when you're saying like there's different moments for coaches, how you win the locker room. I've gotten a chance to, because my father, college football coach, I've gotten to see the way that he wins the locker room with a young man, 18, 19, 20-year-old. In the NFL, when he spent a year with the Texans, he was like, it was so different because guys would, as soon as OTAs or whatever's done, they're on their jets and they're gone. Like you don't develop that like coach mentor relationship. So in the NFL, Brian Dable has done two things. One, the way you just said how he put some money up in Davis Webb's pocket by activating him and all, and then not taking money away from Xavier McKinney off of the injury, the hand injury, where they could have done something in his contract. They could have docked pay. I think that's two moments right there where players are like, you know what? I'm gonna play for that guy because he's going to allow me to mess up. He's going to allow me to develop. He's going to allow me to be a young maturing man in this business and in that sense. So not those are two moments right there where I see like, you know what, those two moments where Brian Dable goes to the team. He's like, look, I need us to be full pads today or anything like that. I think those are two moments where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna put my helmet on and I'm gonna go run through a brick wall for this guy.
Yeah, Brandon, can you take us through quickly the elevation from the practice squad to the roster? I guess, financially it was different in your day than it is today, but financially then versus now, and then, the moment you get the call of like, you're getting the call to the big squad. Because like Paul said, it's a dramatic increase financially from practice squad to the roster.
Yeah, back then, Paul, we had 8. It was, I call it 53 plus 8, 53-man roster plus 8 for the practice squad. And it was on that practice squad, you get released like for whatever reason. If they didn't have enough offensive tackles or linemen, you could get released at any point in time. And now the new day practice squad guys, remember Adrian Peterson came out and he was on somebody's practice squad. It's like now everybody, it's like Oprah, you get a practice squad player, now in these days. But I remember when we were on that run our freshman year, Sonoris Moss had something going on with his hamstring, and it was the Buffalo week where Ma ran crazy that game. And I was taking 1 reps because Coach Coughlin came to me earlier in the week. He was like, look, they're going to monitor Sonoris. If he can't get ready to play by Saturday, then we're going to activate you. You're going to make the trip out. You're going to play. So I remember making some plays in practice with the ones and Plax like bringing to me side, like, and all the receivers like, that's what I'm talking about. Steve Smith, Mike Sullivan, like we've been preparing you for this moment. Saturday comes. I went Friday night, went and got me a new suit. Went and got me. I was ready to go. I come in Saturday morning, got me a new bag and everything. I was ready. Coach Coughlin calls me up. He's like, Sonoris is a go. We're going to leave you behind. But I really appreciate everything you did. It goes to show that you've been paying attention in meetings. You've been doing everything you're supposed to do. Stay ready. Man, I hopped in my little Chevy Avalanche and went to the Avalon Lyndhurst. He going to cry in the car. Like, I was so down after that. But just at the same time, like that moment when you get that call and your teammates they're behind you and they're like, you're ready for it. That's just one of those things where you want to step up and play big for your guys that are day one.
Hey, Brandon, did you get 53-man roster pay that week or practice squad?
I got practice squad pay that week because I did.
Lord.
Yeah, wasn't on the roster.
At the end of the year,
rotten.
the DBs, all that extra money that the guys made for the playoffs, the DBs put a little money in the pot and they broke me off a little extra something because they were like, you got us ready in the Steve Webby voice.
But practice squad got money from the playoffs, right?
We got we got practice squad check every week. So even on the bye week of the
Bonus.
Super Bowl, we still got to check because we practiced that week.
Right. So if the team makes the playoffs, the practice squad guys get checks for each week.
They're
in
still
the playoffs.
yeah, but they're still working. So yeah, they get bonus checks,
Yeah.
not necessarily a bump in pay, just more
Yeah,
checks.
they just get more of the practice squad money because it's another week and another week and another week. I mean, I go to cover the Super Bowl every year, whether the Giants there or not, and sometimes I catch up with former Giants and their guys sitting at the tables. You guys know Super Bowl week, you're sitting at those tables on Wednesday and Thursday, and they're practice squad guys, and the team brought them for practice for the week.
There's some great stories in there too, Paul. I always actually really enjoyed when you guys would talk, because I would learn something about some of my teammates maybe I didn't know. I think there's really cool stories in that locker room outside of the top guys, which I think as journalists is probably why you guys enjoy it. But I enjoy the playoffs too, because the New York Post pays me bonus weeks. Extra weeks shows. I get to do more shows, more checks.
Listen, I'm trying to get us to make a trip. We'll see it. We'll see what happens. If not Minnesota, maybe San Fran round 2.
I will not be there. I will not be there.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that on the preview show.
Yeah.
At the Minnesota game.
You're not going to go.
I will be there. I booked my flight.
Nice.
Going home from Philly.
Can't make it.
You know what? And the prices were going 6, 7, 8. The prices were going up.
Of the flights
were going up.
Yeah.
Once it was known that New York is going to look, the first time Christmas Eve there were not a lot of Giants fans in Minneapolis. I expect there to be a lot more this week.
Yeah.
Do you fly on Saturday, Paul, or Friday?
I really can't divulge that for security reasons, Jake.
I wouldn't either.
No.
Good
I
man,
want Giant
Paul.
fans to be on your flight. Well, one guy who's making more than practice squad money is Kenny Golladay. Actually $72 million to be exact. And Paul, you did a story. You spoke with Dave Gettleman, who was the guy who signed Golladay, and also talked about how proud he was of Daniel and Saquon and this Giants team for getting where they are.
Dave Gettleman had not spoken since he retired. Now, people get on me and sometimes say, how can you say he retired? Well, he retired. He saw the handwriting on the wall, and they told him, Dave, it's probably a good idea for you to think about retirement. He's a smart guy, and he retired. As you guys both know, Dave Gettleman was with the Giants for 20, 30 years. Very good scouting, pro personnel. I like the guy very much. He was not a good general manager. Okay. I mean, he just wasn't. His record wasn't good. Some of his philosophies of how to build a team were a little bit outdated, I think, and he was not a good general manager. Let's face it. And you mentioned Kenny Golladay. I understood what they were doing, signing Kenny Golladay and drafting Kadarius Toney. It made sense to surround Daniel Jones with weapons. They just didn't pan out, and so those are bad moves. But the reason I wanted to reach out to Dave was, we're looking kind of back at this season. How did the Giants get here? Because none of us thought we'd be doing a Blue Rush playoff podcast. I just really don't think any of us thought that. You start with Daniel Jones. His first draft pick ever was Saquon Barkley. We can debate whether number 2 in the draft is worth of a running back, but Saquon's a heck of a player, and he had a really good year this year. Daniel Jones, who we were stunned that they picked him at number 6. How much money do we think Daniel Jones is going to be making at this time next year? Right, a lot of money. So he's proven himself, we believe, this year. But a lot of guys, Dexter Lawrence, going to make big money. He's maybe the best player on the team right now. Andrew Thomas, the left tackle. He's first round pick. He's going to be making big money. One of the best left tackles in the game. These are all guys that Dave Gettleman drafted. Darius Slayton as a low round pick, good player. Nick Gates signed as an undrafted free agent, a starter. Traded for Leonard Williams. That was, we didn't know at the time, right? They don't get here without Leonard Williams. He drafted Azeez Ojulari. He drafted Julian Love, who plays every snap on defense as a 4th round pick. He drafted Xavier McKinney, we think is going to be a very good player. So his fingerprints are all over this team. And, I just thought he deserved, and the thing is, Dave said, especially speaking about Saquon and Daniel Jones, their success does not validate me. It validates them. And I think that's a great way to put it. He's very happy and proud that these guys have developed in his vision.
Paul, what was his tone when speaking? Because he's gotten a lot of heat. So when you're mentioning these names and you're mentioning these players who are key pieces and great for this team right now, what was his tone when he was saying these names and what
he believed in those guys. He drafted them, right? You always remember who drafted you or who signed you, right? I mean, they believe in you. Somebody said, we want to bring you in and we're going to pay you this, right? They believe in you. So he believed in those guys, and his tone was very much like, Paul, I'm not interested in talking to you for this Dave Gettleman victory tour or this Dave Gettleman, my fingerprints are all over this team. He said, keep me out of it as much as possible. I said, Dave, I understand that. The top players on this team are guys you drafted. He said, okay, I'll talk about them. Okay. He said, look, after a month, I was hearing that Andrew Thomas was the worst of the 4 offensive linemen drafted, right? After a month or 2 months. That's what people were saying. That's what PFF was reporting. I was certainly writing that, Andrew Thomas is behind these guys. And right now, most GMs in the league might take Andrew Thomas over anyone in that draft at left tackle. So he was not doing victory laps, but he was happy for these guys. I mean, he invested, he puts the card in Daniel Jones, number 6 in the draft, and people are like, are you crazy? So, you stick your neck out for a guy. Look, Ernie Accorsi left the team Eli Manning, right? A general manager and a quarterback are linked more than any other player. By far, coach, GM, a coach, quarterback, GM, quarterback, and coach. If the GM can leave the team a quarterback, he has done a huge, right, Jake? You look at the Jets here, right? Can the GM leave the team a quarterback, right? And so if Daniel Jones is that guy, then it will be forever known that Dave Gettleman stuck his neck out for Daniel Jones and he left the Giants with a quarterback.
Well, there's hits and misses with every general manager. If you're going to talk about Kenny Golladay, then you have to talk about Adoree Jackson, right? I mean, he signed Adoree Jackson in free agency, and Adoree Jackson's an unbelievable player. And a little bit under the radar is Graham Gano. He signs Graham Gano coming off a pretty
Lawrence,
nasty.
He meant I'll let you. I'm sorry. When we were talking about all his guys, right? And the guys you signed, and Dave said, don't forget about Graham Gano.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
he's been. I mean, the guy is. I said this on some other show I was on. I said, for the first time in a long time, Justin Tucker has company. That's how good Graham Gano's been.
Wow.
Like, he's been that good. He might have. Even this year, probably better. I don't know. I haven't looked at the stats, but I think Graham Gano's been better than Tucker this year. And if Graham Gano's not an all-pro, then we need to figure out how we count these votes. But I'm a big Dave Gettleman fan. I always have been. I enjoyed our visits. He was, part of our teams when we won Super Bowls. And I just loved interacting with him. The guy went to 7 Super Bowls as an executive. Like, that's unheard of. Every 4th year he was in a Super Bowl, statistically, whether it was with the Bills, the Giants, and the Carolina Panthers, who he took to the Super Bowl very early, maybe with someone else's roster. I get that. But he drafted some really good players over there too. So people love to villainize somebody, and Giants fans are the worst at it. They just picked the guy out. It didn't work out. But the coaching was bad too. The coaching here was poor. Across the board. Joe Judge brought in all his fraternity brothers in the clapper. That's never going to work. So, I like Dave Gettleman. I'm a big fan of his.
And he took the high road, class in, class out, because he could have just think what these new age like GMs, the new way people do things is, I'm throwing somebody under the bus if I'm going to take heat from the media, and he never did that. You never heard him say anything about Joe Judge and all that. And the fact that you're naming all these players and you're sitting there thinking, you're like, oh, this guy's good. This guy's playing lights out this year. It's kind of like our anger is misdirected anger in a sense. And like, for Giants fans should have been more angry or been more on top of Joe Judge than a David Gettleman. But at the same time, you can get the groceries, but if the meal doesn't come out, if you're not salt baying that meal and you're not getting a 5-star meal, then people are going to be upset and all. So, but good kudos to him, and I'm glad he didn't take that.
There you go.
Well, I don't understand why. Look, he's not working for the Giants anymore. He's not in football anymore. Like I said, he did not deserve to come back as the GM. And like I said, I like him, but he did not deserve and he didn't. But I think sometimes fans want to fire him. Then they want the Giants to rehire him. Then they want him to fire him again. And then, then like the Game of Thrones, they want to parade him down Main Street and everyone can throw garbage at him. I mean, he worked. He was a loyal, employee of the Giants. It did not work out as general manager, and now he's no longer the general manager, even though he wanted to stay. He was not going to retire. So, I mean, I think that's enough. I mean, I agree with you, Lawrence. We don't have to. You show him the door, but you don't have to kick him once you show him the door.
Right.
I mean, I don't understand that. Unless the guy
he's done a lot of good things.
Yeah, and it's just it didn't work out for him as general manager. There are worse things that happen in the world, right?
Well, he's not hit by too many medium Pepsis right now because Joe Shane has the Giants headed to the playoffs, and Andrew Hart's notes Graham Gano 29 for 31 this year. Justin
32,
Tucker
29 for 32.
Justin Tucker 37 for 43.
Yeah, but a 58-yarder. He missed a 58-yarder, right? Which whatever, and one was blocked. Okay,
yeah.
So he missed one. I think it was.
He's 8 for 9, 50 plus, guys. That's all you need to know. And I'm not talking about like 50, 51. Some of these are 56, 57. He has, if you guys remember the Chicago game, I mean, he's made some of these kicks. Carolina game, big kicks and big moments. Without him, there's obviously, goes without saying, they're not in the playoffs. But this has been his best year, I think.
Lawrence, it's almost like a relief pitcher, I think, a closer who you assume when they're so good, you assume they're going to get the last 3 outs, and you don't even credit them almost. Oh yeah, and blah 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 blah, and Mariano Rivera got the save. Like blah 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 blah, and Lawrence Tynes kicked the game-winning 41-yard field goal. When a kicker is so good. Now look. The kid Joseph kicked the 61-yarder to beat the Giants at the buzzer in Minnesota. That you notice, but when a guy just kicks don't say just. When a guy goes 3 for 3 on field goals and they win the game, you're just like, yeah, he did it, right? I mean, Lawrence, you had plenty of games where you kicked a 47, 41, and 38-yard field goal, right? You went 3 for 3, and your name might have never even been in my story. Maybe it was one line. One line. Lawrence Tynes kicked it. That's what
it was like Jake Elliott. Jake Elliott yesterday for the Eagles. Phenomenal game, and on grass. People don't understand grass. Those conditions, man, dead center every kick. He's a good kicker. I really like him too.
5 for 5, right? Yeah.
You mentioned Joseph, and that's who the Giants will face next. The schedule is set Saturday. The Seahawks get in. Everyone thought it was a lock that the Packers were winning. We waited for that game, so we knew the schedule. They win. The Seahawks will play the 49ers Saturday at 4:30.
Hey, one other note, one quick note here, Jake. Real quick, just a quick panel discussion, 10 seconds or less. How many of you had Jamie Gillen getting sacked yesterday on the fake field goal? Come on. He had the drop snap against the Eagles, and then he gets sacked and just throw the damn ball when he rolled right. I get it, Brandon. The tight end's covered, right? But just throw it. He tried to cut back and turn into Jalen Hurts. He got absolutely smacked.
It looked like
Eagles nailed it.
It looked like he was looking to the throwback to Davis Webb, wasn't it? It looked like Davis Webb was kind of going like, no,
that's not it. And Ian Eagle said the Scottish Hammer gets nailed. That was a great call of the game. You have to go listen to it. It was a great call by just for that. It was worth hearing Ian Eagle, friend of the show, by the way.
Well, wasn't Lawrence Cager sacked also? Wasn't it? There was.
I believe both sacks were against positional players. Yes.
It's the first time I saw. It's the first time in history of the Giants' history, which goes back to 1925, right? That a tight end was sacked.
And the kicker, obviously, or the punter, that's probably happened before. I thought that was cool. The onside kick, the fake, whatever. Just have fun. But I had to get that out there. That was fun.
Ian was not giving him a "he's not human" call there. He was
no.
He should have chucked that in there.
Great call too.
He's the best broadcaster in sports, in my opinion. Chargers, Jaguars, Saturday night. Sunday, the big one, Dolphins, Bills, and then Giants, Vikings, Ravens, Bengals, the 8:00, and then Monday night playoff game, which I'm not in love with. Cowboys,
not in love
Bucks, not in love with the.
Is that new? I was just talking with my wife this morning. She goes, "There's a Monday night playoff game."
They do it last year too, Paul, right? Or was this the second year? Or I thought they did it last year.
I thought it was new this year, but you might be right.
The only good thing about that is we get Peyton and Eli.
Or do we? Yeah, I guess.
Why don't
they're doing a playoff game. They're doing a playoff game. Why don't you guys
like it? I mean, you this way you can sit down and relax on a Monday night and watch a playoff game. But
we get 3 days. Yeah, no, I think Peyton and Eli will call that as well.
But why don't you like it? Why don't you
like the weekend? I'm used to the tradition of Saturday, Sunday, and I know Monday,
Saturday, Sunday.
I like it because the less days I have without football, the better.
That's true.
So that's one extra day with football.
Yeah, that's true. Well, listen, the Cowboys are, what a terrible effort they pulled out on Sunday. They lose. The Bucks lose, although it didn't matter. So the Giants get the Vikings. Lawrence, this is what everyone was hoping for here. Giants-Vikings, the rematch of Christmas Eve. They lose on a field goal. Now they'll have Adoree Jackson back, most likely. They have Xavier McKinney back. They're coming in with basically a week off with a lot of these starters. I don't know what the point spread's going to be, but I got to think a lot of people are going to pick it's 3 points right now.
2.5, 3.
So they're calling it an even game because the home team gets 3. I got to imagine a lot of people are going to be picking Big Blue in this one.
And they should. I think the Giants are ascending. I think everything's, everything they've done in the last month of the season has really gotten this team ready. They're healthy. They're ready to go. They're confident. They're unified. And they just went up there without half their secondary and lost on a 61-yard field goal. I think they know what's in front of them. I think they know what to expect. I think Wink getting to see a team twice, within a month, I think that favors him. I think he can come up with schemes and plans to confuse. And obviously they've had some injuries, right? There's some, as we go through this week, the Vikings have lost a couple linemen, since they last played, which helps the Giants. They're going to be really healthy. Aziz will be, hopefully healthy. Adoree, Xavier. But let's not underestimate. I just think the depth behind these guys, they've really had a lot of guys play a lot of football. Nick McLeod had a sack and a half yesterday, played great. Pinnock's a great blitzer in the secondary. And that Davis kid, I don't know if you guys watched him yesterday. He is a thumper. The kid from Jared Davis from Detroit. Yeah. Not a household name or anything, but he really stuck out to me yesterday flying around. So
the former first-round pick. Was a former first-round pick.
You could tell. But the Giants should have confidence going in there. Again, this is house money, guys. I know they won't say it publicly. They're not supposed to be here. And it's anybody's race right now. They're healthy. They have no excuses. Just go in there and have fun and play unified football and see what happens.
That's the biggest thing. You said no excuses. And this team, like they know, I think that makes them even dangerous that they know they're playing with house money. Yeah. Because it's like you go in, let's go in and shock the world. They've been like that this entire year. It's always been like a us against the world mentality for this team. And I want to go back and I want to rewatch the first game. But I think this could be the Daniel Jones. Like we've seen some moments for Daniel Jones throughout the year. But I think this is the biggest moment right here where he's going to play lights out, using his legs, using the weapons and the receivers that he has. No one in the Vikings secondary scares you, especially after that first game. You've seen Isaiah Hodgins make plays. But I think the biggest thing this week that Dable and the coaching staff need to hammer into everyone. All right, it's gonna, the atmosphere already. You know what we did when we went up there the first time. Detail your work. You have to detail your work. If there's anything, you can't turn the ball over this week. We can't have any self-inflicted penalties or anything of that nature. But I think the theme for this week is if you detail your work, you can go into Minnesota and beat this team.
How about I talked to Nick Gates after the game and, looking ahead to Vikings and, that environment, you go, what that environment's like. And Gates is when Davis Webb was hit out of bounds, Gates is the one who got in the guy's face. Gates said, "I'm the protector." So Davis is a good teammate. I'm the protector. And I asked Gates about, going back to Minnesota, and he said about that first game they played, and he said, "I thought it would be louder." I thought it would be louder. He said it wasn't really that loud when we were on offense. I thought it would be louder. So that's
turnovers and the things they did in that game that they lost are totally fixable, right? Bellinger gets the ball punched out. The dropped interceptions. Think about defensively the opportunities that they had.
Blocked
punt.
Drop,
again, they're going to have to
3rd and 1.
And interception.
Oh wow,
Jones.
Richie James. I think very early. I'm going to pick. We'll get into that. I think I picked the Giants by more than a touchdown.
Oh boy. One thing I would slow the roll a little bit on Adoree. Let's wait and see because we thought 2 weeks ago, I think he was listed as questionable, and then last week he was doubtful. I asked Adoree in the locker room. He said, "Look, I don't know what to tell you. We have to. We got to get through this week." So that's a cornerback whose MCL is taking longer than we expected, right? So is it reasonable or fair to think he's going to play 50 snaps running against Justin Jefferson and those guys after missing 7 weeks? I don't know. I think it's been, his recovery has not kind of been like this. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of been a little wavy. So I'm not sure that he's going to be a big factor in the game. Xavier McKinney, yes, I think, he will play every snap, I would think. And he didn't play in the first game. But Dory Jackson, we got to see through the week. He's got to ascend a little bit more here.
Lawrence, we'll close it out with you here. You guys were essentially playing with house money 2008 on that run as a wild card team that goes on a run. Can you take us through the mentality of that team? Do you see anything similar with this team as they try to go on a push here?
Yeah, me, I hate comparing teams, but I see a unified unit. A unified team is a dangerous team. And when you're playing for the guy next to you and not the name on your back, that's powerful stuff, man. I even as I told you guys many times on the show, when I'm coaching my youth teams, I just want them to know who their teammates' mom, dad, and sister are. That's important to me. And I think this team probably knows everything about everyone's family and things like that. They're unified. You can tell this is not fake. It has a little bit of Buffalo Bills type feel. The Bills. They always talk about how close that team is. This team is unified, and they're healthy, and they're playing good football. Most importantly, I think that's what's getting lost in all this. They're playing good football. And so that defense can win you games. The offense is clicking at the right time. You finally have defined pieces on offense with Hodgins and James and Slayton. First 10 games of the year, guys, we had whoever the hell was on the team was at the slot or the one or the X, the Y, the Z. So I think they've had defined roles over the last month, including on defense. I think they're dangerous. I really do think they're a dangerous football team. But just being unified, Jake, that's all I can say. We felt like the group of us collectively could beat anybody, and I think they feel the same way.
Well, 4:30 Sunday on Fox, Giants-Vikings. You guys will preview that game on the Blue Rush preview show, which you could also watch on the New York Post Sports YouTube. That'll come out on Thursday, but we're looking forward to playoff football, and we'll be back with a post-game playoff podcast of Blue Rush next weekend.